Hi, everybody. This is Mary in the library. I'm your librarian. So I just want to do a quick recap of today's book group opportunities that today we talked about history and historical fiction. So, things that are important across the library and also in the main building. So this is our first book. This is Barefoot on Crane Island. Uh, this is one of our books, one of our many books actually about local Minnesota history. So if you want to find out, this is a fond reminiscence of Lake Minnetonka in the 1920s. So if finding out about what rich people on Lake Minnetonka did in the 1920s, I think that could be a really good book for you. This is one of our new books here, and this is The Tangled History of Black Hair Culture. This is Twisted is the main title. So this is about the author Emma Dabry, and she can tell you the first time she chemically straightened her hair. She can describe the smell, the atmosphere of the salon, her mix of emotions, uh, and so. This has been, if you've been paying attention, obviously to a lot of popular culture, the idea of black hair, dealing with black hair. This has been a topic that's been much discussed. I have definitely learned a lot. But this has been something that really recommended by a lot of people. So if you're looking for kind of a more personal history that reflects people's everyday lives, hair matters. All right, this is a broader view of history. This is the People's History of the United States from 1945 or I'm sorry, 1492 to the present by Howard Zinn. So Howard Zinn is a pretty well-known popular history writer. This one is an excellent antidote to establishment history. And for people who are maybe looking for something that's going to sound a little bit different than the history that they get in your textbook, that's not wrong. But there's always another story, there's always another angle, there's always something different to look at. And so Howard Zinn is known for writing a lot of books that are kind of maybe the sides of history that we weren't thinking about. And again, there's a lot to history beyond what was just in your eighth grade textbooks. All right, this is a little bit odder side of history. Steal this book. Now, you may think you know that. There's another title. Abby Hoffman wrote a book called Steal This Book. Basic idea here. This is Steal This Book and Get Life Without Parole. Incendiary insights from investigative humorist Bob Harris. So again, just a little bit, this is a different view of history. And he's talking about constantly exposing the hypocrisy of one target after another with the incisiveness of a brilliant surgeon. I mean, that is a review. I like it. So if you're wanting something that's maybe a little harder edge, maybe a little more excitement in your history, we have this on the shelf for you. All right, this is To Be an Indian, an Oral History. So this one is from the Minnesota Historical Press. So it is kind of nice to know that we have such a good organization right here in the state that's giving us a bunch of good, interesting material. So this is some transcribed oral histories by people from the Dakota, Lakota, Winnebago, and other communities talking about their personal experiences, reservation life, the Great Depression, self-government traditions, life in the 1960s. So this book is from 1995, so the book itself is actually a little historical. And there may be depictions or strategies of talking about their ideas, maybe that would be different than what we would say today in 2022. Maybe there wouldn't be. It's always good to have the words of people themselves. That's always going to be a very helpful part of history. So this one is The Color of Law, and you may have seen this. This is A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America by Richard Rostin. And this has been in a lot of book groups. If you were in a Min State book group last semester, I believe, many people across the state were reading this. So this is an interesting look, and part of it specifically looks at Minneapolis, about how federal, state, and local governments systematically imposed residential segregation with undisguised racial zoning, public housing that purposefully severed previously mixed communities, subsidies for builders to create whites-only suburbs. So if you might be a person, or maybe you know a person who says, oh, racial discrimination, what is even that? Uh, the idea of how racial discrimination is so baked into the system and so difficult to really unpack and to address and to make better. This is one of those books that it's got pretty small type, but a lot of really good information in here that will help you to really understand how, and again, especially, or not just especially, but one of the communities discussed is Minneapolis. How did all of these problems kind of arise, and how are they so tangled for us to unpack now? So as we're trying to think about learning from history to be better people, some very good examples. This is another one of our new books here. This is just from 2021. This is Years of Rage, White Supremacy in the United States from the Klan to the Alt-Right. So the idea of white supremacy as a movement, as a people, is obviously, unfortunately, not new, but clearly prominent. So this is revealing and frightening history of the many and varied white supremacist group that have operated in the United States from the rebirth of the Klan in the 1915 to the rise of the alt-right. So the historian here is explaining the motivations and underlying belief, their fears of displacement, their propaganda, just on and on and on, and their deep and unwavering sense of rage. So if you also find these people pretty terrifying, and I do, maybe everybody take a nice deep breath. Becoming hysterically enraged over history, historical ideas, that's probably never the right strategy, but more facts, more understanding, more learning about maybe where do some of these just really very bad ideas come from. It will help us to help root them out and to grow past it. We can be better than that. All right, here's one where we are better. This is The Girls of Atomic City, the untold story of the women who helped win World War II. So, again, as you know, what you read in your history books, especially if you're just reading, if you're just thinking back to, oh, when I was in grade school or even when I was in high school, that's not wrong. It's just a very incomplete picture. There's not time to talk about everything. There's so much more, so many more people. So often, for example, you don't hear that women were in fact involved in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So the height of World War II, Oak Ridge, Tennessee was home to 75,000 residents, consuming more electricity than New York City. But most of the world didn't even know that they were there. So they had thousands of civilians, many of them young women from small towns across America, were recruited to this secret city, and they were enticed by solid wages and the promise of war-ending work. Yeah, this is a really interesting look, and there are other books on this same topic, but that idea that people, they didn't really know what they were doing, they didn't really know what they were working on, they just knew that they were part of a project that was going to help to end the entire world being at war. So just pause for a moment. Every time you think, boy, everything is really terrible right now, society's falling apart, it's just so awful. It's been so much worse. I think we're going to be okay because I feel like we get better. Keep trying, keep reading history, and that's how we find out. If you're just looking for some fun sides of history, the Weird History 101, I love this kind of stuff myself. So this is other tales of intrigue, mayhem, and outrageous behavior. All right, I'm into all of that. That sounds like fun. So if you've ever wondered what it was really like on the sinking Titanic, or how it felt to be shipped across the Atlantic on a slave ship, or how easy it was to sell CIA secrets to the KGB, this is your chance to find out. So really interesting material in here, and you can see that there are the type is kind of nice, that it kind of goes by topic. So here's the start of a new topic. If you're not looking to read an entire book cover to cover, you just want to sit down and just flip through a few pages, this is your book. So they have some dramatic historical events, such as Jack London and Mark Twain's recollections of two different San Francisco earthquakes, Wyatt Earp's version of what really happened at the OK Corral shootout, Charles Dickens writing about witnessing an actual death by guillotine, and also some more amusing things. The dog that was elected to be mayor in California, a look at some of the naughtier sections of the Bible, and also some of the more bizarre examples of North Korean propaganda. So interesting. I don't know what's going to be in there. I don't know if you're going to like all of it, but you like some of it. So stop by, check this out. Now, of course, these are nonfiction books. And in the library, we also have a fiction collection. So we grabbed a few to talk about today. So this is Shanghai Girls by Lisa C. So if you like this book, and she has written a lot of books, very much about sort of Chinese, it's fictional, but historical fiction about Chinese history, Chinese immigration to the US. She's really interesting. I really enjoy her books, and that's not always my genre, but I think she does a nice job. So in 1937, Shanghai, the port of Asia, 21-year-old Pearl Chin and her younger sister May are having the time of their lives. They are beautiful, modern, and carefree until the day that their father tells them he has gambled away their wealth and that to repay his debts, he must sell the girls as wives to suitors who've traveled to Los Angeles to find Chinese brides. So this is 1937. So Japanese bombs are falling on their beloved city of Shanghai anyway. So Pearl and May set out on the journey of a lifetime from the Chinese countryside to the shores of America. Though inseparable best friends, the sisters, they also harbor petty jealousies and rivalries, as people do. Along the way, they make terrible sacrifices, face impossible choices, and confront devastating, life-changing secret. But through it all, the two heroines of this astounding new novel hold fast to who they are, Shanghai Girls. All right, I love that. I actually haven't read this one yet. So if you want to come in, you might have to wait for me to bring it back, but it's okay. I'll bring it back for you. So, and again, check out Lisa C. She's written a lot of really interesting fictional, that historic fiction. She's just great. All right. This is one of my favorite authors. This is Elizabeth Peters, and this one is The Falcon at the Portal. So this is an entire series, and it is about my very beloved Amelia Peabody. So Amelia Peabody is the heroine of the entire series. Elizabeth Peters was writing this all the way up until when she died several years ago, but it's a very interesting series. So a lot of interesting issues that it brings up. Her husband, Emerson, they are very wealthy British people. They are Egyptologists, so they are digging up Egyptian things. Right there, you can immediately start thinking, oh man, doesn't the British Museum have enough stuff that they've stolen from people around the world? Yes, they do. Now, Elizabeth Peters, and I don't think that's actually her name, she's written under several pen names, and I'm not sure which one is her real one. She had a doctorate in Egyptology, so she did in fact have some archaeological knowledge of what she was talking about. So in her book, her characters are, yes, rich British people who are in Egypt, and they're digging up Egypt's treasures, but they are, to the extent that you can be, they're kind of the good guys, and they try to make sure that that their people are well treated, that some of the artifacts are going to museums in Egypt. It's interesting though. They're very interesting mysteries. So if you like mysteries, this is a great series. And over the course of the series, they get married in the first book. They have a kid, Ramses, in book 2 or 3, I think. He grows up pretty quickly because he's this extremely precocious child. And once he grows up, the books kind of slow down in time. You start World War I and you see World War I and kind of the effects of people living their everyday lives while the world is at war. It's interesting. But anyway, great books. Good history. I really enjoyed it. Same with this. So this is a gentleman in Moscow, and Amr Towels. I'm pretty sure I'm saying his name wrong. I'm so sorry. Very embarrassing. But his books, it took me a while to get into this. I had it checked out, and it is 400 and something pages long. Yeah, it's a slog. But oh man, as soon as I started reading this, I could not stop. So the story here is uh, a 30-year-old Count and Count Alexander Rostov, 1922. So think about where we are in Russia in 1922. World War I just finished. We're about to have a Russian, or we've had the Russian Revolution. The Count has been deemed an unrepentant aristocrat by a Bolshevik tribunal, and he's sentenced instead of being executed, which was more typical. In this book, he's sentenced to house and rest at the Metropole. It's a grand hotel that's across the street from the Kremlin. So the rest of that happens in the beginning. The rest of the book then is about his next, I don't know, 20, 30 years. I don't remember how long it goes, but how he spends his time. He can't leave the hotel, but all the people that he comes in contact with. And it's just, that might not sound extremely exciting to you, but I promise as soon as I started reading it, I was like, okay. I was like, oh, okay, I'm there. Uh, he's also written several other books. So if you start with this one potentially, and if you like this one, I will say almost all of his books, I have kind of looked at them and thought, oh, this is really long. I don't know. It's going to take so much time. And then as soon as I start them, I can't put them down. His most recent one is Lincoln Highway. We don't have it, but it is at the public library. So whatever public library you're at in Minnesota or anywhere, it will be available there. Again, totally recommended. Really interesting look, this time at U.S. history. And it's great stuff. So all right. Well, I hope you feel like you've had some very quick exposure to a lot of the books that are available to you here at the library. We have so many more. If you want to come talk about books with us anytime, we're always here and we are available to make sure that we share books with you. So next month, we will have another book group and we will be talking about science and science fiction. So join us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.